Hi everyone, and welcome to the Sports Countdown podcast. This week we're going to focus on tennis. We're delighted to have James Oana here with us. James, absolute pleasure.
Well, pleasure's all mine, fellas.
So we'll get stuck right into it at the start, but maybe just give us a little brief introduction about yourself.
I mean, you already introduced my name. That's pretty much the end of my list of achievements. I don't know. Met Pete in Russia, and we were roommates, and we also have the exact same birthday. So were we destined to be best friends and brothers? Yes, we were. I don't know. We just kicked it off. Love sport. Me, I'm kind of just a sport buff. Everything and anything I've played. I'm just gassed to be on, as the English would say, in Pete's mother language.
So you're the same age as well? Is this just like some sort of
exactly the same age?
Unbelievable or something. That's mad that happened, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite the revelation. We were just like something. We had met in Feb, so it was something on the lines of birthday recently. He was like, "Oh, when's your birthday?" Feb 2. Get lost. Mine's Feb 2. What year? 96. Get lost. Mine's 96. And then, that scene from Step Up. Did we just become best friends? That's pretty much what happened.
When we were in the same room as well, maybe building bunk beds.
Yeah. No work was achieved.
That was our plan, Pete. That was our plan to do that. So I'm a bit upset that I've just been replaced, but we'll move briskly on before I start crying now. Oh, right, James. We want to talk about the tennis today anyway. So you're actually told us that you're going to the Australian Open tomorrow. So it's been a long time a lot of us have been in like lockdown. So it must be really exciting to be able to attend a live event. So how excited are you to be going to that event, especially being such a major one as well?
I was meant to go on Monday, so I was kind of preparing for the worst to not end up going, but thankfully the numbers were on our side and got out of lockdown and quickly jumped on Ticketmaster and snatched up a ticket straight away. Oh man, there's nothing quite like live sport. The atmosphere. I don't know if you guys watch the Kyrgios. Who did Kyrgios lose to? The Kyrgios game last week. Dominic Thiem.
Yeah.
Man, it was insane. Like I wasn't even there, but a good friend of mine who I'm going to the tennis with tomorrow was there, and he just said it was just unbelievable. So I mean, anytime you get to go to live sport after what all of us have sort of gone through around the world, you just feel blessed and you take it in even more. So I was fortunate enough to get to a Big Bash game a couple of weeks ago, and it was just awesome to be at live sport again. So I mean, I can't wait. It's going to be Tsitsipas versus Medvedev. I think 4 versus 5. So it's going to better be a hell of a game.
Yeah, that's huge. We're definitely missing it where we are. It sucks right now, but hopefully we can get back to it and back to live sport. I think just, even before the tournament even started, there was a lot of headlines around the man himself, Novak Djokovic. Yeah, maybe that's a popular theme, especially now after the letter that he wrote to the tournament director. I think it's just for those who don't know, I think around 72 players had to quarantine for 14 days when they arrived in Melbourne because of coronavirus, obviously. So Djokovic, wrote that letter asking for, better conditions for all the players, trying to get out of that quarantine as soon as possible. Obviously, not ideal before a major tournament, but then again, not the worst thing in the world, all things considered. I think actually, you mentioned Kyrgios there. He took to social media to call Djokovic for his thoughts. So that was widely backed up by a lot of people, and I think by you. But can I just get your stance on the whole thing?
I mean, I understand both sides of the debate, I guess, whatever you want to call it. On the one hand, I get that Djokovic it wasn't so much a letter of demands or anything. It was just a request so that the players would be in better condition, the tennis would be better, less likelihood for injury. I mean, he's well within his rights to ask for all of those things. So I'm not going to sit here and, scold him for having a crack at asking. Any self-respecting athlete would have done the same. I thought media sort of blew it a bit out of proportion. Most of them were pretty reasonable, not in that they should have been accepted, but in that you can understand why he's asking for all of those things. But I think a lot of Australians, particularly Melburnians, which is where I am, kind of saw it as a slap in the face. First and foremost, before that, I think me in particular, and this is where I sort of view it from, is that he put on a tournament during sort of the height of COVID in Europe. I think it was in his native Serbia. And I think 6 or 7 or 8 players or something along those lines end up contracting COVID. Now, was it from that tournament? I don't know. No one really know if it was directly related, but in the aftermath of that, those players all contracted COVID. And personally, I think that's kind of a selfish move from a tennis player. Like, you're just a sport player. And this is where it kind of comes back to Australians, particularly Melburnians. It was kind of that disrespect to everything that disrespect to everything that we'd gone through, the hard work that each of us put in to get to a stage where we can enjoy the tennis and, have 0 cases and a lot of the vulnerable and sick are safe in their community and can live a relatively normal, I guess, life. So I guess I understand both. But I think a lot of Australians, particularly Melburnians, took that as a slap in the face for everything we'd done to get to a stage where he is fortunate enough to come here and play for millions of dollars. So, I mean, I don't really care either way. I understand both sides. I just don't like Djokovic in general.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting from that point of view specifically, definitely. It all seems pretty recent, but we're already in the semi-finals, almost towards the final, so it's absolutely flown by. One major shock of the whole tournament was Nadal losing to who you mentioned, Tsitsipas, who you're going to see. So that was a 5-set thriller. So he's obviously going to be.
Was it?
Thrilled, yeah. But how big of a shock was that for Rafa to go out?
Jeez, I mean, talking earlier about I'll just stay up for a couple more games and watch Tsitsipas lose, and then I'll go to bed. And before I knew it, it was past 12, and I was on the couch like, what is happening? Like, it's surely not. Yeah. Now, firstly, regardless of who won, it was just unbelievable tennis. Could not take my eyes away from it. And to put it into perspective, Nadal is, one of the 3 arguably greatest of all time. And man, he's been killing it. I don't think he has dropped a set this tournament. He's just been on a roll, and 2 sets to love up.
Yeah. And
this is what's really amazing is Tsitsipas lifted himself and kept that level over Rafael Nadal for the next 3 sets.
Yeah.
So the perspective of seeing it from that he had to take himself to a level above Rafa and go for those shots and serve ridiculously well and win a lot of the points. If you saw that third set in particular, neither player gave up many points on their serve. It was to love or to 15 almost just about every game. And that's why it went to a tiebreaker. And it was just some of the most cleanest tennis I've ever seen. And that same standard happened in the fifth set as well. And you think Tsitsipas has already played a five-setter against the one and only Thanasi Kokkinakis, the Aussie. And, Nadal has sort of cruised through to where he is now. And Tsitsipas, with all of that tiredness, he's risen to that level and kept it for 3 sets. Man, he's in rare company coming back from 2 sets to love down against Rafael Nadal and actually winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of shocks, we in the women's game, the quarter final, an Australian, Ashley Barty, she was knocked out as well. I mean, she's an athlete that's shown just like fantastic ability, not just in tennis, but she's also played like cricket and golf recently as well. So, I mean, she was one of the favourites to win the Australian Open. I'm sure she was number 1 seed. So, for you, James, how big of a blow is that to like the Australian public? Do you think that she got knocked out on her home patch? Because like Wimbledon, obviously I'm Scottish, so I'd always back Andy Murray, especially at Wimbledon. It was always be like, this is the one you want Andy Murray to win. You'd always back him, and then, I mean, tough. It's always the toughness of the men's competition when you had Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. He's up against those 3 plus other players are obviously coming through. So it was always a bit gutting when he lost, even though like he's come up against a fantastic player. But it's just something that like it's soul destroying almost sometimes when he lost. So did you have a similar sort of perspective when Barty lost their quarter final match?
I guess to sort of explain it, I sort of kind of have to go into the psyche of the Australian public. We're a sports mad country, regularly punch above our weight, given we only have 25 odd million people here. And we have been waiting since like the 70s for someone to win the Australian Open. That's Aussie. I think it was like Mark Edmonton or something along those lines in 76 for the men, and I want to say Yvonne Goolagong in like 78 for the women. Off the top of my head, I could be wrong. And we got really close with Leighton Hewitt in the early 2000s, and it's just we just long for an Aussie to win the Australian Open, and we probably end up putting a bit too much pressure on Barty. I guess it hurts a bit more as well because of the whole medical timeout debate, if you want to say that. Should it be part of the game, yada, 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 because, Barty was up a set and a break, I think, and then the medical timeout, and then she just capitulated. So, yeah, on one hand, very used to Australians losing at the Australian Open. It's like, not again. On the other hand, it's just, it's, as you said, a bit heartbreaking.
So, yeah, Ashley Barty gone in the women's, Rafa gone in the men's. We've talked about that. I think people would love to hear. I'm honestly not going to call it because I never get these things right. But maybe you're the man in the know, just given that it's there. Can you see Djokovic storming in the men's? Osaka obviously beat Serena in the women. But, it's really tight to call. But if you can, just give us a prediction of who you think's gonna come out on top. Women's on Saturday and men's on Sunday, I believe.
Well, let's go with the women's first, just because we know both finalists. You have Jenny Brady, who I think I saw her, was watching her play against the other American unseeded, something starting with P.
Names left me.
It's like, let's see if I can, Pagula. There we go. And she really impressed me. I really liked the head on Brady. She's very calm, and she wasn't really calm in the last game today, but she's very measured, and I really liked the game. Very, very balanced. So I actually sort of was like, she might actually do pretty well, and in the final now, I think. Man, Brady's had a few tough games, and she was part of the 72 and hard lockdown. So I guess it comes down to, can she muster up the energy through all the fatigue to play another 2-3 hours against a phenomenal Osaka. I mean, Serena Williams was, by her coach's words, was in the best shape she's been in for 3-4 years in terms of her ability to run down the ball, and to then be dismantled by Osaka, Williams has been playing really well, and she just couldn't do anything. So Osaka is in some blistering form, and only played straight sets against Williams. It's really hard to look past Osaka. But as Aussies, and I'm not sure how you guys are, you always back the underdog. So I'll be going for Jenny Brady. Not that a Brady needs another title, but that's another topic. For the men, I really want someone other than Djokovic to win. And it's not that, I just don't understand how Djokovic can say at the press conference he doesn't know whether he'll be able to play the next game because of his abdominal injury, whatever it may be, if there even is an injury, and then just come out and just play phenomenal tennis. And on some point, it looks like he's about to give up, and then he just storms and wins the set, and he has a history of doing that. So I think that's another thing that Australians don't really like about Djokovic, is that it's not cheating per se, but it is just, you're not winning by just putting everything on the court. You're doing other sort of shifty things, sort of grey areas that sort of takes away from the tennis. So, man, it really depends. If Medvedev sails through Tsitsipas tomorrow, my money's on Medvedev, just because he's played less tennis, and Djokovic has been in some grueling games. A couple 5-set and 4-setters. Usually by now he's dropped like one set. But the other big thing to note is that he now gets 2 days off, and he had a straight sets win in the semi-final. So that could end up just going, and he has 8 Australian Opens behind him. So, titles. I'm rooting for whoever's on the other side of the draw, but it's really hard to look past an 8-time Australian Open champion.
Yeah. So on our Sports Countdown podcast, James, we like to get a top 3 countdown. So I don't think we'll be hearing Djokovic's name on this one, but
he's number 1.
So James, for you, what we've got, we want your personal favourite top 3 tennis players of all time, and we'll start at 3 and we'll work our way to 1.
I'll do women and men, just because otherwise I might be biased towards a certain, generally watch the men a bit more, at least when I was growing up. So for women, top 3 would be Yvonne Goolagong, I think it's Yvonne Goolagong Crawley now, or Crawley. I did a bit of work with her at Monash University with her Indigenous program, tennis program, and she was just the loveliest person and didn't grow up. She was a bit before my time, well before my time, but watching highlights and everything she achieved, I got to put her in my top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is Kim Clijsters. She was dating Leighton Hewitt as I was growing up, and she's affectionately known as Aussie Kim Down Under. And number 1 is Ash Barty. She's just a genuine superstar. Special mentions to Anna Ivanovic. She was my childhood crush. For the men, special mentions to Gael Monfils. Man is just an excitement machine. And that's tennis for you. It's just needs to be entertaining. No one wants to see a 3-set dull affair, 6-love, 6-love, 6-love. So it's nice to have someone that puts in a bit of flair. Number 3, it's really hard to look past Roger Federer, the Fed Express. He's just so classy and elegant and just a lovely man off the court. So got to put him at number 3. Number 2 might be a bit of a shock. It's actually Andy Roddick of America, former world number 1. I used to try to serve like he was my favourite player growing up until he snubbed me for a signature at the Australian Open one year. Anywho,
He still made.
I used to try to serve like him when I played, and just loved his backhand, and I used to try to replicate everything. So I just loved Andy Roddick. And number 1, again with the hometown bias, is Nick Kyrgios. He's my favourite player of all time. I just love the antics. I love the entertainment. I love it when he smashes a racket and tells his brother off for having his girlfriend in the box. That's what tennis is all about. We're not there for the actual tennis. We're there for the entertainment.
Yeah, he's not like anyone else, is he? I love him.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. All right. So, James, thank you for coming on today for the Sports Countdown podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
No stress, anytime, any sport.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Love it. Pete, pleasure speaking to you as well as always.
Till
And,
next time, mate.
and make sure you can give us a follow on our social media outlets, and we really appreciate all the good feedback that we've heard from everybody so far. So thank you and take care, and we'll see you next time.